What is the true price of the war with Iran?
We're going to be discussing the crisis in the Middle East and around the world, along with a lot more today on The Undercurrent.
Greetings and salutations from planet Earth. 38 degrees here in the Chicagoland area. Boy, we got tore up with some weather yesterday.
I heard there were some folks who died in Illinois. Yeah.
There's a egg-sized hail.
Yep.
In parts there. And here's the thing, folks. If a pro tip, as someone who's been through a lot of tornadoes and hurricanes and whatnot, if you see hail, that means tornadoes are somewhere nearby, because that ice just doesn't just fall from the sky, like rain. It gets churned up in the atmosphere with these tornadoes, and then so if you see hail, make sure you get to a safe place in your house, and make sure you have a safe place in your house or wherever you're at. So did you get any storms down there yesterday?
No, we had a little bit of rain, but not much. It's been okay. We'll see. As you know, I'm flying up to Chicago today, and we'll see what happens. We had very warm weather yesterday. I think it was in the mid 70s.
Yeah.
So we're having our usually. Oh, by the way, Ned's here to say hello to everybody.
Kitty, sweet baby kitty.
We got some folks here. We have CBC voter. We got Willie Bragg, our good friend. So folks are showing up, and we do appreciate all of you. Also, a quick reminder, we are trying to build our YouTube channel as well as our social media pages, and I'm sending in right now into the comments our link tree. Hey, Chuck, good to see you. If you could, it would help us a lot to build this channel. We can do more with it. Also with those Facebook and Instagram profiles. If you would just follow those, that allows us to get to the point where we can also stream this show directly on there instead of having to use our personal profiles. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think people want to watch this show on my profile that says, I'm Stinky Pants. It's like those old, when you when you were like some people when they were young, they had like these silly emails, and then they started using them for getting jobs and stuff like, Poopy Pants McGee at Gmail. And you're like, no, you got to change that, bud.
Yeah, people don't need to be seeing my cat memes and stuff like that either. So
they do need to see your cat memes, but probably not in that context. So, but also a reminder too, we're on YouTube, obviously, and we're on Rumble. We're starting to creep up a little bit on Rumble. We're getting a lot of views on Rumble too, which is very, very, very good, because we're trying to reach more places. Like you said, we're on Instagram, Facebook, and as of now, unless it crapped out, we are streaming on our Substack page.
We are
the Undercurrent for you .substack.com. So if you're on Substack, you can watch us there too. We're trying to give you options, broadcast options. That's what we do here. We're very options friendly.
And also keep in mind, when you can go to that link tree and you can actually subscribe to our newsletter, which also doubles as our show notes. So you can follow along while we're giving you our stories. And you can check out those stories and decide whether we're being accurate in our reporting, which we do appreciate.
And if you're mostly on Substack, give us a follow on there as well. And leave comments too. We have comment sections in our Substacks on there for the live video and for the regular Substack as well. So we want to hear from you. You're part of the community, and you are the community. We're just the knuckleheads running the show over here. So
we surely do appreciate everybody's support so far. As a matter of fact, I was just telling Uncle Warren I'm getting a new computer to further improve our production quality around here. I've been investing in peripheral stuff, but now it's time to up the hard technology. So we're looking to make this all better for y'all. So thank you so much. But Uncle Warren, I think we have news.
Yeah, unfortunately, we do. It is time to dive into the riptide. And California billionaires starting to sweat a little bit, I think, as billionaires tax supporters up in California by nearly 2-1, according to polls there. So voters in California are supporting a proposed wealth tax on billionaires in their state by a ratio of almost 2-1, according to a poll conducted by the Citron Center for Public Opinion Research, or CIPAR. Politico, which commissioned the poll from the center at the University of California, Berkeley, reported Tuesday that support for the billionaire tax is currently at 50% of California voters, while just 28% registered opposition. I'm pretty sure the 28% are the billionaires. Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I'm just asking questions. However, University of California, Berkeley political scientist Jack Citron told, I guess that's his poll then. No coincidence there. Told Politico that the measure's passage isn't yet a slam dunk because voters remain vulnerable to counter arguments against the plan, which would impose a one-time 5% tax on billionaires' total wealth. 5% tax. That's it. 5%. And they're going to fight it tooth and nail. You know they are. The yes side has the current lead, and you have some strong supporters, so that's the good news, Citron explained. Most experts on the initiative process say that the yes side has an advantage to start with because no one's been talking about it, and it sounds like a good idea. But then once the campaign begins, you whittle away at that. Right. Well, the whittling away is when the propaganda comes in. It's like, no, you don't want to tax billionaires. That goes against your interests. Like, wait, what? How does that figure? Among other things, the poll found voters were concerned about whether the wealth tax would really be a one-time measure, whether it would push wealthy individuals out of the state, and whether the middle class would be forced to pay more in taxes to make up for the potentially departed billionaires. Citron told Politico that supporters of the wealth tax will have to convince voters that billionaires' threats to leave California if the measure passes are a bluff. If you're the yes side, you have to hammer away at this isn't true. They're not going to leave. It's just scare tactics, he said. Senator Bernie Sanders, who, along with other progressives, has championed the wealth tax, hailed the UC Berkeley poll as a sign that the political tide is turning against the U.S. oligarchs. One can only hope. A new poll shows voters overwhelmingly support California's proposal to tax billionaire wealth to fund health care by nearly a 2-1 margin. Sanders wrote in a social media post, the American people are sick and tired of massive income and wealth inequality. Billionaires need to start paying their fair share. California Governor Gavin Newsom, seen as a likely 2028 Democratic presidential candidate, has gone on record opposing the wealth tax and has said he will campaign for its defeat. Surprise.
You know, if I might go back, this issue with wealth inequality in California goes way back. I particularly remember it during the big tech boom of the 90s, when you had a situation where people. This is not a new problem. There's nothing particularly new about this, but there were situations. I had friends in the tech industry who were making, for the time would have been a good salary anywhere else, who were living 4-5 people to a house because nobody could afford a place to live. I heard about cases where you had police officers who had homes. They were not homeless, but were actually sleeping in homeless shelters because of the commute. You had situations where teachers, gardeners, people who had essential jobs could not afford to live. Those are not functional communities.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to this point where something has to give somewhere. You need to build more housing. You need to fund infrastructure and make it possible for people to live in places. Otherwise, you have this massive divide, and it becomes technically people can move or live wherever they want. Legally they can, but nobody can manage it. And of course we're now seeing it across the country, but California has been a place where I think they've been dealing with this for a very long time, and they really haven't gotten the kind of relief that they want.
Right. Maybe, and California could probably do for a tax restructuring anyway, because there's been several like big time names leaving California even before this was even proposed because of the high taxes there. And it's not something that's easy to put together, right? Any kind of tax code kind of thing, especially
Yeah.
for one of the largest states in the union population wise. You're going to have, you need to work it out, and something people haven't seemed to be able to work it out. And it's just very indicative that if billionaires are scoffing at a one-time 5% ding to their billions of dollars, that just tells you the level of greed that is going on in this country, and particularly in California. So yeah, it's we'll see. Yeah, that's going to be one we're going to be following for sure. And Newsom opposing it. Not very shocked by that. He has a lot of wealthy friends in California that probably said, hey, if you want to be president and you need that financial backing, you might want to put your thumb on this one. I don't know. That may have been the conversation. Maybe not.
Newsom embodies everything that everybody hates about liberals.
Yeah, especially that haircut.
Well, just they're so slick. They talk, they hit the talking points, and they basically leave the people to deal with messes that they don't have to deal with because of their position. Yeah,
because that's what they've done in all aspects of their lives too. I don't want to deal with this. You deal with it. And so now the people in California, at least half of them, are saying, no, you're going to deal with it too. So we had some sneaky peekies come in here. We got Steph. She's in here. And Steve Wolfbrand. Good to see you.
All right. Steve. Great to see you both. We got two S's.
And I know, right?
Like Newsom when he's such little snakes.
Yeah. Newsom looks like a car salesman to me. That's why I guess maybe
does.
that's why
I've never seen the appeal with that guy.
I have this innate distrust for car salesmen anyway. So, and our buddy Wesley is here too. So.
Hey, Wesley, good to see you.
Meanwhile, back at the ranch, in the latest blow to Trump's mass deportation plan, judge blocks overhaul of immigration appeals. So, when Iran's not smacking him around, the courts are, it seems like. And we knew this was going to happen. He was going to put all this stuff, and a lot of litigation was going to be the result of it. So, Immigrant rights advocates on Monday hailed a federal judge's ruling that blocks significant portions of Trump's proposed policy changes regarding the Board of Immigration Appeals, which had been scheduled to go into effect this week and would have, quote, eviscerated non-citizens' right to appeal decisions in their immigration cases, according to the rights groups. In the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia, Judge Randolph Moss issued a late-night order on Sunday calling Trump's rule titled Appellate Procedures for the Board of Immigration Appeals, which was proposed last month, a, quote, a fast-track mechanism for disposing of the vast majority of immigration court appeals. The proposed rule would have reduced the time immigrants have to file appeals from 30 days to just 10 days, required summary dismissal of appeals unless a majority of the Board of Immigration Appeals, the BIA's 15 permanent members voted to accept the case for review within the 10 days and permitted case dismissals before records were transmitted to the board. Moss said the administration had violated the legal requirement for the government to notify the public of its proposed changes to a federal rule and provide an opportunity for public comment. The Trump administration could potentially try again to change the immigration appeals process. Laura St. John, legal director for the Florence Immigrant and Refugee Rights Project, said the ruling keeps in place a basic yet critical protection for immigrants facing removal, the ability to appeal their case. As the administration continues to try to deport as many people as they can quickly and often without a fair day in court, it's critical for everyone to have the opportunity to file an appeal, said St. John. Without this decision, countless immigrants with valid claims would have been hurriedly deported to dangerous conditions, forsaking due process for efficiency. The Florence Immigrant and Refugee Rights Project is one of several groups that sued the administration over the proposed rule, with Democracy Forward, the American Immigration Council, and the National Immigrant Justice Center representing the plaintiffs. St. John argued in court that it can take at least a week for advocacy groups to prepare materials and file an appeal to the BIA after it has determined a non-citizen can be deported. Forcing immigrants and their legal teams to file an appeal within 10 days would leave many without any meaningful review of their cases, St. John said. And I think that's probably the point of what Trump's trying to do, to stymie the appeal process there. While the Executive Office for Immigration Review claimed the new policy would swiftly reduce the backlog of cases before the BIA, Moss wrote in his opinion, the plaintiffs argued that the provisions would operate in combination to deprive almost all affected parties of the administrative appellate review that they were previously entitled to. Wait a minute, where am I? Okay. Erez Ruveni, senior counsel at Democracy Forward, said the decision makes it clear that the Trump-Vance administration cannot play games with the immigration appeal system to eliminate basic due process and fast-track deportations. Ruveni is a former Department of Justice lawyer who revealed in a whistleblower complaint last year that DOJ staffers had been advised by the Trump administration to ignore court orders in order to swiftly carry out Trump's mass deportation agenda. Ignore court orders? Wow, that's a shock. You never hear that. Once again, no matter how hard this administration tries to hide its cruel and unlawful actions behind an immigration policy, a federal court has made clear that the government must follow the law and cannot strip people of their basic rights, he said. We will continue representing our plaintiffs in court to defend their rights and hold this administration accountable. The Department of Homeland Security has not regularly disclosed the number of people it is deporting under the Trump administration. Internal Immigration and Customs Enforcement, aka ICE baby, data showed last year that more than 10,000 people were being deported per month. Moss's ruling came less than a month after U.S. District Judge Sunshine Sykes, that was my boxing name back in college, and entering the ring, Uncle Warren Sunshine Sykes. Ding, ding. Let's get ready to rumble. Needless to say, one hit, and I fell down and ended my boxing career. Sunshine Sykes in the Central District of California threw out a BIA decision that endorsed the administration's policy of denying bond hearings to immigrants with no criminal records who have been detained. A federal appeals court issued a temporary pause on that ruling last Friday after the White House appealed. There's more to it here, but you pretty much get the gist of the story that Trumpy's trying to let's go, baby, let's go. And these courts are like, no, we need to give them time to get these appeals in order.
This thing called due process.
What? I'm sorry. What? That sounds like a new term to me. What was that called? Process?
Process.
Mm-hmm. It has to be said slowly for some people that don't understand that, people that are about
concept.
People who are about to get booted actually need due process. We got foreigners over here. What's up, Moose?
Hey, how you doing? Good to see you.
He's one of our UK correspondents over there. So,
amen.
It's he's probably having afternoon tea right now. So I don't know if he's fancy like that, but he might be. But yeah, this that's what Trump does. That's all his whole career has been using the courts, finding loopholes and obscure laws and whatever he can to gain an advantage. And he's doing that as president too. And these judges, even some of the judges that he appointed in his first term are like, no, it's just, no, you got,
this isn't how it works.
Yeah, this is not how it works. Wesley says the courts are real good at saying the federal government cannot strip you of your rights long after they've stripped you of your rights. I know, right? We have Nomen Nudum, evil.
Oh, evil. Okay, that's good. That is actually good.
Oh, you're talking
Newsom?
about
I think he's
Newsom?
talking about Newsom. I think he's talking Newsom. Yeah, that is actually quite good.
Evil plastic Pat Boone. Oh, I love a good Pat Boone reference anyway. But then to tie it all together with a bow like that, that's some fun stuff. So what's not fun is blowing up things apparently in New York. Mamdani getting somewhat of a scare there as the FBI.
This was not nice.
Yeah, this is it's getting crazy out there, folks. FBI finds explosive residue in storage unit after 2 men are charged with lighting bombs in New York City. You may have heard about this the other day, about there was some sort of protests with we'll get into it. So the FBI said Tuesday that it found explosive residue in a Pennsylvania storage unit as part of an investigation into 2 men charged with bringing homemade bombs to a protest outside the home of New York City's mayor. That would be Gracie Manor. Amir Balat and Ibrahim Qayyumi told police after their arrest that they were inspired by the Islamic State group, according to law enforcement officials and a criminal complaint. The men live in the Philadelphia suburbs and drove together to New York City on Saturday to carry out the attack near Gracie Mansion in Manhattan, officials said. In response to police questioning, Balat said he hoped to accomplish something even bigger than the Boston Marathon bombing, which killed 3 people, the complaint said. Overnight Monday, FBI bomb technicians conducted controlled detonations of the explosive residue found at a public storage facility in Langhorne, Pennsylvania, near where Balat's family lives, according to the agency. The explosion resulted in several loud bangs, the Middletown Township Police Department said Tuesday, adding that there was no threat to residents. The FBI said it has conducted multiple searches in connection with the investigation. White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt on Tuesday called the attack absolutely despicable and said government investigators and prosecutors won't rest until the perpetrators are brought to justice. Yeah, we'll see about that. Much remains unknown about the motives, planning, and relationship between Balat and Qayyumi. Court documents show Amir Balat's father, Selahattin Balat, is a native of Turkey who was granted asylum in the U.S. in 1998. And later became a U.S. citizen. In a 2009 bankruptcy filing, he listed his occupation as painter and said he had 3 children. Amir Balat is a senior at Neshaminy High School in Langhorne. Neshaminy? I'm not sure how you pronounce that. It's a school high school in Langhorne, probably the only one. A school spokesperson said he enrolled in a virtual program in September and had not attended in-person classes since. His lawyer, Mehdi Azmidi, said his client had complicated stuff going on in his personal life. Without elaborating, Azmidi said he did not believe the 2 young men had known each other for long. Qayyumi is from Newtown, about 4 miles north of Langhorne. He graduated in 2024 from Council Rock High School North, according to a school spokesperson. His attorney did not speak to reporters following a court hearing Monday and declined to comment when reached by the AP. Online records show that Qayyumi's parents have owned and worked at multiple Popeyes fast food locations, including Philadelphia, Brooklyn, and Atlantic City. His mother filed a missing person report with police Saturday, the day of the protest, saying her son had not been seen since that morning, according to the complaint. Prosecutors, police, and FBI officials say Balat and Qayyumi joined a throng of counter-protesters at a small anti-Muslim rally organized by far-right activist Jake Lang. A Christian nationalist, Lang is a critic of New York Mayor Zohran Mamdani, a Democrat and the first Muslim to hold the office. Journalists photographed Balat hurling a device smoking with a lit fuse that was later found to contain the explosive TATP. The object, which also contained nuts and bolts, extinguished itself without harming anyone. Balat then dropped a second object near some police officers and tried to run, but was tackled and arrested, according to a court complaint. Balat and Qayyumi were being held without bail after their court appearance on charges that include attempting to provide material support to a foreign terrorist organization and using a weapon of mass destruction. They were not required to enter a plea. New York Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch said Monday there were no indications that the attack was connected to the ongoing war in Iran, but said the city remained on a heightened state of alert. On Tuesday afternoon, a park near the mayor's residence was evacuated and several surrounding streets were closed as police investigated reports of a suspicious device. The object was later deemed to be non-threatening. Mamdani was not home at the time and Gracie Mansion was not evacuated, according to a City Hall spokesperson. Now, there's two ways this could go, right? This could be an actual thing where these people are part of this group. What was it? The Islamic the Islamic State, or, as you know, because there's a lot of stinky poopy propaganda going on, this could be somebody trying to start some shit in order to divide communities. What's your take?
Well, one thing that people have pointed out is that they're saying they're associated with the Islamic State. Islamic State and Iran are enemies. They fought each other. They're not aligned. It could very well be. There are all kinds of possibilities, but on the face of this, my inclination when I'm looking at this is that it could be stochastic terrorism, where you basically have, and I'll be talking about this in the next segment, where you basically have some people who are inflamed, who are angry about the situation, and go off and do this on their own. And that can very easily happen. I think it's most likely in many of these cases, just because there's a lot of plausible deniability for people who are officially organized. And why bother when you've got people, lone wolves, who are happy to do this on their own. The other thing is it could very well be a controlled situation where you've got an operative who's doing this to make things more difficult, to make things. It's what does disturb me is the reports of what was included in the explosive, the nuts, the bolts, the particles that could take people's eyes out, that could cause some really, really nasty damage. That really does disturb me a lot. But again, at this point, I'm not buying any of it, and I'm going to stick with the most probable. It was stochastic terrorism, or again, it was an operative who was in there to further terrorize the population, to further scare people and get people angry. The fact that they're, again, when they claimed the Islamic State thing, I thought that was very strange. But it is something that the U.S. public has been propagandized about. We've been told about the Islamic State. That is a known organization. People know that immediately. They may not know other terror cells or other organizations. Something about this smells, but again, the explanation could just be as simple as, at this point, they were angry, they don't care anymore, and they went ahead and did it on their own. I don't know, but I think we need to keep all of that in mind when we're making judgments about this, and we should not let it stop us from continuing to address the horrors of this particular war.
Yeah, it's one of these things. It's to gin up fear, regardless of the motivation to do so. Because that's the thing. It's whether these were just lone wolves, or if they were part of a bigger faction that did this. It reminds me of last year with the two Jewish individuals that were, I believe they were murdered, and the person that was taken into custody, and he said, "Free Palestine," right? And I'm like, okay, that's it. Kind of the same situation there, where it's just like, yes, that could have been a lone wolf. It could have been somebody affiliated with Palestine. Like you said, it's like we really don't know for sure, and I think that's a good way to think about it, is that we should keep our mind open to all possibilities of what's going on, instead of directly, even though if there was a similar situation before, say, oh, well, it's just like this, so it must be this. Let the facts bear out as they come out, if they're allowed to be released. Is that's the thing, and it's like, who's providing these facts too? We always have to be very skeptical of that too. We need to be skeptical of oysters too. Do you like oysters? Are you a fan of
I
oysters?
love oysters. I was unhappy to see this because I really love oysters.
I do too. I grew up on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and there's a lot of shrimping down there and oysters. You get the oysters on the half shell, or you get the fried oysters too.
Roasted oysters too are really good.
Never had roasted oysters. I have to check that out.
We got to come on down here. I'm gonna take you around. We're gonna have some roasted oysters.
Some people are not into oysters though because of that squishy in the middle thing, but I'm just like, little hot sauce. Put a little hot sauce on there. Some good stuff.
Oh, some lemon.
But not on these oysters.
Oh no, this is bad.
The FDA issues a recall for certain oysters and clams over norovirus risk. So the FDA is warning consumers not to eat and retailers not to serve or sell certain oysters and clams that they could potentially be contaminated with norovirus. The FDA issued a recall on Monday for Manila clams harvested by Alumi Indian Business Council and raw oysters harvested by Drayton Harbor Oyster Company, with both having harvest dates of February 13th through March 3rd of this year. Officials said the oysters were distributed in Washington State, where the clams were distributed, I guess that should be redistributed, in Arizona, California, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Nevada, New York, and Oregon. Officials said the clams could have been distributed to other states as well. Oysters and clams contaminated with norovirus may look, smell, and taste normal, the FDA said. If eaten, they can cause illness and severe illness in people with compromised immune systems. The most common symptoms of norovirus include diarrhea, vomiting, nausea, and stomach pain, according to the FDA, which are also side effects of watching my secret show on Friday nights. So be very careful. We don't take responsibility for your illnesses. Sorry. Other symptoms include fever, headache, and body ache. The FDA said people usually develop symptoms 12 to 48 hours after being exposed to norovirus. And apparently you can visit the website here. That's very tiny. What is that? Sorry about this. I have to do this real quick. So this is the FDA.gov. So I'll put this in the chat. Hopefully it'll take. Is this it's
also in the show notes on the Substack, so you can go and check that out there. I did want to mention norovirus is highly contagious. It's known as the cruise ship virus, and that's why whenever anybody on a cruise ship is diagnosed with norovirus, there's the person is isolated. All crew members, even the entertainers, are put on norovirus protocol. They're going around, they're sanitizing everything. It's people usually recover. But of course, if a person is sick, that can be a problem. But it's just an incredibly unpleasant condition, incredibly contagious. I remember, and this was going back, probably 13, 14 years, but there was a norovirus thing that was going around in the UK. And it was so bad that the NHS just put up on their website, you can self-certify that you have it here, and you just generate the doctor's note that you can bring to your office or send over to your office, so you don't go in. Don't go to your doctor's office, because all you're going to do is make people sick by just going there. Stay home, wash your hands, drink fluids, and do not go to your doctor's office, because all you're going to do is spread it, and we can't help you. So unless you're like they say, your immune system is already compromised, you may need to go to the doctor. But that's a personal decision. People who are children, the elderly, pregnant women, that sort of thing. So that's too bad. Hopefully that gets taken care of soon. But we're seeing a lot of contamination type stuff where things are getting a lot of it. It really is. And I don't know if it's more common these days or if it's just because it's so easy to find this information on the news, because once something is reported, the government agencies usually just upload it and then it hits the news. I remember back in the day, it was relatively rare. There was one case of, I want to say, was it E. coli? I think got into the milk supply in the Midwest. And that was really nasty, and it was huge. I mean, people were going nuts at that time. Nowadays, it seems like it's almost every day.
Yeah, and it's not exactly, we don't have exactly the most healthy food here in the United States. A lot of our foods here are banned in other parts of the world.
Well, that's
So
also true with other foods in other parts of the world that are banned here. So it needs to be kept in mind that there's a little bit going on there. But fair enough, if you've got an entirely laissez-faire system, and when you don't fund your regulators who are supposed to be investigating and inspecting these places, and you're paying your workers very poor wages, or you're deporting them, or putting them into camps without any due process, yeah, you're going to have problems with the food system.
Yeah. And especially, and it's been found too that a lot of our foods have microplastics in them too.
Oh, yes. That's something that I'm working on with my meal preps. I'm trying to eliminate those plastics from my kitchen. It's hard. It's going to be expensive, but I'm working on it. By the way, for folks, even if you have a glass or a metal container, if it has a plastic lid, there's some evidence that your food can get even more microplastics from that lid, because when you're pulling them on and off, that's when the parts break off and get into your food.
Yeah. That's why I seal all my foods with kryptonite, because I know Superman is real and likes to steal people's food. So, and it also protects the food too, especially from plastics. So yeah, that's the Riptide for today. Time to get into the meat and taters of the catch of the day, and of course, it is the price of war, as we are in war with Iran right now. So, Lainey, take it away.
I think we've kind of touched on this with the situation in New York, which was incredibly disturbing, regardless of the affiliations of the individuals who perpetrated this. And I'm very glad it did not succeed in the way they wanted it to, although it may very well have succeeded in scaring people and polarizing people. And that's not good, but that also is part of what terrorism does. It's also what psyops do. So I think that is critical to keep in mind. But one of the things, Uncle Warren, when this war broke out, we said that, whether Iran is able to win the war, or however you define that, the fact of the matter is they are capable of making this incredibly painful for us. Incredibly painful. And they're doing it in various ways. The situation in New York is one of those situations. But we are seeing other things that are happening. For example, there was an explosion outside the U.S. Embassy in Oslo, Norway. And they said initially, we're not sure, but it's looking a lot more like this was targeted. This was not an accident or something like that this was absolutely targeted. And look, the good people of Oslo, the good people of Norway, at some point, they're going to get sick of this. They're going to get completely sick of this. And they're going to say, we've got this rogue state. The U.S. is now a rogue state. And we don't want to be bearing the consequences of their ridiculous actions. Again, I think it's fortunate that people were not injured, but this is distressing, and it's going to be alienating us further from our allies. And there's not much. Hey, Ellen, good to see you. There's not much I can say beyond that, but this is something that did happen. We've also, and by the way, we can scroll down a little bit, but something similar happened in Toronto. There was somebody who was shooting at the U.S. consulate over there. And now what's happening is the Mounties have to step up security outside the Israeli and American embassies in Ottawa, which means that the Canadian people their systems are now being stressed trying to protect embassies, which, I mean, again, they're responsible for law and order in their own countries. But this is, again, how this is being made more painful. And again, whether these were stochastic terrorists, lone wolves who just got up and did this, whether these are psyops, whether these are operatives, or whether these are actual terror cells aligned with Iran or with a broader Islamist cause, it doesn't matter. It's now where nerves are strayed. People are concerned about injury. They're going to, they may be changing the way they walk or drive in these areas. And now we have strains that are going well beyond our own people and into other countries. So this is another example of how this is becoming painful. We also have had some very strange things that have been going on with American air travel. In fact, I'm leaving this afternoon for a flight, and I'm going to be real curious to see how that goes. There was the case of a flight out of Nashville ended up getting diverted in Atlanta because apparently there was a gentleman on the plane who had set his smartphone to let him know when it was time to pray the Islamic prayers during Ramadan. And he was supposed to be praying. And this turned into a complete fiasco. People reported this to the flight crew. The flight crew brought the plane into Atlanta. People were on the plane, I want to say, for like an hour and a half while they went through every single bag. And people were, there was a video on social media showing this sort of thing happen. And again, this was terrifying, I'm sure, for the people on that plane. It was probably really terrifying for the poor gentleman who was being accused of praying. And we've got
to be fair, I mean, I think everybody on these planes should be praying themselves, since we've had the mess of air travel crashes and mishaps too. So, I mean, I know he was praying for his religion, but also you might want to pray on a plane to make sure you make it there. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, go ahead. But people, again, this is the kind of thing that's happening up in Kansas City. There was another issue that happened in Kansas City where there was some kind of a concern. I think in the airport parking lot, people were taken out and nobody was telling them what was happening. They were being corralled outside the airport. They were not getting any information. And not only is this frustrating, people miss their planes. There are a variety of reasons why you don't want to miss your plane. Sick family members, family events, business meetings, interviews. But when this happens and you get no explanation, again, that further stresses people out. Mm-hmm. And people are far more likely to say and do things when they're stressed. It's far more likely to say or do things when they're stressed than they wouldn't ordinarily. So we've got this, and this is what we're living under now. And just for what it's worth, I was in the grocery store yesterday, and what did I see up at front by the cash registers, prime location, right up there by the cash registers with the recipe, the women's magazines and the recipe magazines and all that? Dangerous Times magazine with headlines like Surviving Next Gen Threats, America Divided, Grid Down, How to Survive, Active Shooter, Inside the Lockdown, Evil Hidden in Plain Sight, and What if 911 doesn't answer?
This was on the plane? This
was in a grocery store. I was in the grocery store yesterday. This was right up there in a grocery store, up with the ladies' magazines and the recipe magazines and, National Enquirer and that sort of thing. And this is what's getting sold. It's reflecting the mood of this country at this point, that people are terrifying themselves and each other, and selling these magazines to do that. So right now, one of the pain of this war is that we have a community of people, a whole lot of people who are scared, who are scared, who are frightened, who are suspicious of each other, who do not trust each other. And that's another very painful thing. And of course, the other thing that we're looking at right now is the fact that we've got the Strait of Hormuz is closed. There are supposedly mines that I'm hearing about in there. Chuck's been reporting on that a little bit because he's got his UFO view that he can look down and let us know what's happening. So we've got threats of tariffs, threats of shortages everywhere. You go onto YouTube and everybody's saying, buy these 15 things right now. And we've got people who are absolutely terrified. We've also been seeing the prices on things going up. And that's going to continue if trade continues to be jeopardized, unless they can find out some alternative ways of moving goods and materials around. So there you are. You found that, Uncle Warren.
Yeah, the oil shock. And they've been playing around with this too. The U.S. government has, right? Because the gas oil had shot up to about $100 a barrel, maybe a little over than that. And then Trump announces that, oh, well, we're wrapping up the war. And then the prices came down. There was also a report of the energy secretary making a post on Twitter saying that a ship was successfully escorted out of the Strait of Hormuz. Our buddy Chuck was talking about how it's closed right now, and the Iranians are mining it too as well. Yeah. So they are totally locking it down. But when he made that announcement, hey, they escorted this ship through, then the prices fell too. But then like a few minutes later, he deleted the post. Almost like a market manipulation. And what that does is, even though the price of oil is going to go up and down, we've noticed in past crises that the price of gas will still stay up. Oil will come down, but then it takes a long time for the price of gas to come down too. So that's another thing, especially with commuters, people trying to get to work or wherever they're doing. I believe there was, There was one place that I can't remember can't remember where it was, but they said you don't have to come to school. We're going to do the what it's called, where you could do it from home, right? Yeah. This. So so there's people trying to get around those price hikes for gasoline alone, and even though, like I said, the price of oil is fluctuating, the gas prices aren't. I mean, James Lee, the investigative reporter, was talking about seeing prices in LA at like over $8 a gallon. And those prices probably aren't going to come down anytime soon, as long as this conflict is going on, because everything is in a state of flux right now.
And by the way, just so you're aware, there's a woman, she does stuff on TikTok and Instagram. She does Dollar Tree meals, and she's had registered dietitians say she's probably saving lives, because she shows people how to put together meals from Dollar Tree when you only have a very limited budget, you don't have a pantry, you don't have extra ingredients at home. And she just put out a video the other day showing that at Dollar Tree, now all grocery items are at least $1.50.
Oh yeah, they went up from $1.25, and now it's $1.50.
Now, yeah, and that's for the grocery items. And again, it's people will say, well, you can maybe do it cheaper by buying in bulk, but there's a lot of people who can't buy in bulk. You have $20. Yeah, you could pay $20 for 4 items and pay less per ounce or per pound, but you're not going to have enough to make meals for the week. So it's just doesn't quite work that way. And so if you want a grocery item now at Dollar Tree, which are usually small packs, you're looking at least $1.50. This is where we're at right now. They're going to continue to make this more painful. We're going to be looking at increased isolation from the rest of the world. We're going to be talking about increased terrorism, regardless of the source. Increased prices. We're going to be looking at shortages, and we've already got a really nasty housing situation here, as we've already discussed. So if anybody doubted whether Iran could make this painful for the U.S., here we are.
Yeah. And they've already said, too, that I believe Trump and maybe Israel, but I know Trump has tried to negotiate with Iran for a ceasefire, and Iran said, no dice. You started this war. We're going to finish it on our terms. And and I don't think the administration either here or in Israel realized, they thought maybe just taking out the Ayatollah Khomeini was going to do the trick, but the way Iran works is in their leadership tree is very layered and complex. It's almost like a hydra, right? You cut off one head and then you still got 6 others, and it's not that simple. It's not like going into Iraq or Afghanistan or Libya, taking out the leader and then you've won. Iran is a huge country. It's a huge mountainous country, and now there's talks about maybe having boots on the ground in Iran, which is just going to be suicide for these troops, because these U.S. bases in the neighboring Gulf states are just getting blown to hell by Iran's weaponry. I think they underestimated the capabilities of their weapons. And I think this is, and who's going to suffer for this? Not only just the people of Iran, people in Israel, and people in those Gulf states. We're going to suffer too with the high prices and having to deal with this nonsense. And it doesn't look like it's going to stop anytime soon.
These people have shown that they have no problem blowing up this world to get what they want. They have shown just a cavalier approach to their own people. They've just shown that they do not care. They simply do not care. We're already seeing, and we're what, 10 days in?
Yeah.
And they're showing their backsides, folks. When somebody shows you their backside, that's what it is. and take it for what it is. And take it for what it is. And then you have a choice. You can, I'm gonna put it this way, in a very vulgar way. You can eat their shit. You can walk away from it and not deal with it, or you can, since they've got they're facing away from you, you can shoot them.
Yeah. Or you can vote them out too. You can vote them out too. This is really going to be, and this is one of the things with the gas prices in particular too, the oil prices is what Trump is fretting the most, because it's really going to affect the midterms come November. It's already affecting some races in these primaries right now.
Yeah.
A lot of people who have supported Trump are saying, "Oh, I didn't vote for this." It's like, well, here you are.
You kind of did. They knew he was unpredictable. I mean, I think a lot of people felt, you said, well, he's going to keep us out of foreign entanglements. He's going to keep us out of foreign wars. And what he did is he gets back into office and he just did something entirely different. This is the pro wrestling playbook.
Yeah.
Keep them on the edge of their seats. You do one thing, you say one thing, you do one thing. You say one thing, you do another thing. It's back and forth. It's the jacking around of people. That's the method here. So why anybody voted for him is utterly beyond me. And again, I continue to blame the Dems for this. Yeah. I genuinely do. And this never should have happened. But we've got more of a show for everybody. But this is where my frustration is.
Yeah, mine too. And it's I don't want people to think we're homers for the left or anything like that. We're just here to tell the truth.
Yeah.
Right. And the truth is, this is a bipartisan fuckery, to use vulgar language myself. And the Democrats have just basically told us, oh, well, here's the candidate you can vote for. And it's, well, we don't want that candidate. Well, too bad. That's who you're going to get. And when you do that often enough, people just say, well, you can put that in your backside, to be kind of nice to say that. But continuing our Iran coverage, we have a new segment here called the Man of War Stings.
Yeah.
All about your favorite war news items. Who doesn't like war? Sorry. Yeah, I don't think we like war. But like we
what is it good for?
Yeah, absolutely nothing. Say it again.
War.
Good God, y'all. As we told you before, Iran has begun laying mines in the Strait of Hormuz, and that's not good for the shipping of oil in particular. Iran has begun laying mines in the Strait of Hormuz, world's most important energy choke point that carries about 1/5 of all crude oil, according to two people familiar with U.S. intelligence reporting on the issue. The mining is not extensive yet, with a few dozen having been laid in recent days, the sources said, but Iran still retains upward of 80 to 90% of its small boats and mine layers, one of the sources said, so its forces could feasibly lay hundreds of mines in the waterway. Iran's IRGC, which now effectively controls the strait along with Iran's traditional navy, what's left of it there is, has the capability to deploy a gauntlet of dispersed mine-laying craft, explosive-laden boats, and shore-based missile batteries, according to CNN. Trump said in a post on Truth Social on Tuesday that if Iran has put out any mines in the Hormuz Strait and we have no reports of them doing so, we want them removed immediately. Yeah, like they're going to listen to him. They haven't so far. He added that if mines were placed and they were not removed, Iran will face consequences at a level never seen before. That's his little catchphrase. It's bigger than anybody's ever seen. It's the world's biggest. Nobody's seen anything like this. You know, and he just
they will be obliterated.
They will be obliterated. They'll be torn to pieces. I'll take them out myself. I'll take my shirt off and my man boobs will just slap him to death. That was a picture you didn't need to put in your mind. Sorry about that. So he said, however, that if Tehran removes what may have been placed, it will be a giant step in the right direction. Yeah, I'm sure it would be. Following Trump's post, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth posted on the tweeters that at Trump's direction, U.S. Central Command, that's CENTCOM, has been eliminating inactive mine-laying vessels in the Strait of Hormuz, wiping them out with ruthless precision. We will not allow terrorists to hold the Strait of Hormuz hostage. Yeah, you probably will, Bob. CENTCOM said in a social media post later Tuesday that the military destroyed multiple Iranian naval ships, including 16 mine layers near the Strait of Hormuz. But they have hundreds of those things. So it's like, okay, you got 10 of them. The IRGC previously warned that any ship passing through the strait would be attacked, and the channel has effectively been closed since the start of the war. The state of the strait, that's a cool thing. That'd be like some sort of like special news program. The state of the strait has been described to CNN as a death valley, given the risks involved in transiting. U.S. officials said Tuesday that the U.S. Navy had not escorted any vessels through the strait, though Trump said Monday that his administration was looking at options to do so. Trump also said during a Monday press conference that the Strait of Hormuz is going to remain safe. We have a lot of Navy ships there. We have the best equipment in the world. There it is, in the world, inspecting for mines. And this is where it is right here. So this is Iran. This is the you can see this right here. And this very narrow gap here between the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman is the Strait of Hormuz. Very narrow. Not very big. Maybe like about I think it's like 30 kilometers or something like that. So, and they're trying to squeeze through there. And Iran has batteries all along the coast here. So even if the mines don't work, their missile batteries on the shores, unless those are taken out, can easily take out the boats that are trying to go through that. You don't need a navy to take these things out. You just need a choke point like this in order for that to happen. So now how long that lasts remains to be seen, because apparently Iran has several missiles at their disposal that the U.S. probably didn't know about.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, we didn't quite think this thing through, boss.
Oopsie. No, it's interesting. I've been listening to some fairly mainstream commentary, mostly outside the U.S. So some of it in the NPR, some of it BBC, stuff like that. But what I'm hearing from some very reasonable people who are commenting is that they think that Iran has been underestimated in multiple ways, and that in fact Iran is not showing its full hand at this point. It's not showing all that it actually has. And we were in, again, I think we're in for a load of pain here. And I think a lot of other countries are too. When I'm seeing what's happening, and I want to make it clear that when I'm talking about Canada and Norway, by the way, I'm not just talking about our European or North American allies. I'm also talking about the fact that you've got bases throughout the Middle East, and what could be happening to these countries as well. I don't want to appear that I'm not thinking about them. They've just making it to the point where the U.S. will become toxic.
Yeah.
And nobody will want to have anything to do with us.
And now there's talk of easing restrictions on Russia so that Europe can get fuel, right? Which
that might be, a consideration.
Yeah, I mean, and it's actually not as bad now, seeing how we're moving into spring and summer months. So the heating oil may not be that big of an issue now, but if this had happened maybe in September or October, you talk about a world of pain in Europe for sure. And speaking of fuel, Aramco is warning about the Strait of Hormuz being closed. So Aramco CEO warns catastrophe imminent if Strait remains shut. Yeah. So Saudi oil giant Aramco issued a warning yesterday that the global energy market faces catastrophic consequences if the Strait of Hormuz remains closed. There would be catastrophic consequences for the world's oil markets, and the longer the disruption goes on, the more drastic the consequences for the global economy. Aram CEO Amin Nasser told reporters, "While we have faced disruptions in the past, this one by far is the biggest crisis the region's oil and gas industry has faced," he added. Nasser went on to say that the crisis has ravaged the shipping and insurance sectors, while also threatening aviation, agriculture, and other industries. Of course, we would support any actions or measures that would help to deliver our products to our customers, to the global markets, he said, when asked about the U.S. Navy potentially escorting oil tankers through the strait. Yet a top energy official in the Gulf told Reuters that ending the war was the only way to open the strait, though, through which around 20 to 30% of the world's energy passed before the attack on Iran. Qatar warned on Tuesday that attacks on regional energy infrastructure could trigger economic repercussions far beyond the Gulf, like you were talking about. Doha said strikes on oil and gas facilities have set a dangerous precedent. Tehran has vowed not to allow 1 liter of oil to be shipped from the region if Washington and Tel Aviv's war continues. The Strait of Hormuz will either be an outlet for understanding and cooperation, or it will turn into a strait of strangulation for those who dream of wars, Ali Larijani, head of Iran's Supreme National Security Council, said. Since the start of the war, Iran has targeted tankers, refusing its warnings not to approach the strait. U.S. military bases housing key radars, as well as vital energy infrastructure across the Gulf, have also been struck, most of them destroyed by Iranian forces. In response to an Israeli attack on an oil facility in Iran, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, said yesterday that it targeted Israeli energy facilities in Haifa. Global oil prices currently hover around $90 per barrel, down from $120 on Monday, following Trump's statement that he aims for a swift resolution to the war. But if you knew Trump, you know that's bullshit. However, prices are expected to surge again. Trump's comments on the war have been contradictory. First, he said we could go further, and we're going to go further, he said on Monday, before telling U.S. media hours later that I think the war is very complete, pretty much. It's like, well, you could go further, but you're done. So the U.S. military has burned through more than $10 billion of its annual budget since the start of the war in late February. Trump's advisors have been urging the U.S. president to find an exit plan to extract Washington from the brutal war on Iran due to concerns of political backlash. We were talking about the midterms. Informed sources told the Wall Street Journal on March 9th, that was Monday, yet Iran has reportedly refused ceasefire discussions. It is we who will determine the end of the war, the IRGC said this week. And there's also the U.S. was actually admonishing Israel, if you can believe that, for targeting, I think, oil facilities in Iran, because that's part of the reason that's driving up the prices. Because oil is Iran is a big oil exporter themselves, obviously, and that particular area, the Strait of Hormuz, it's when your global economy depends on a basically 30-kilometer gap between between shores, you really need to rethink your energy sources, right? I mean, we could have totally, if we could have put all our big brains into it, into better, like possibly better solar panels that you can, when they break, you can recycle them and use them again. More innovative wind turbines, or water, using water more efficiently, that sort of thing. But they haven't. They rolled the dice. They put their whole stack of chips on oil, and now look where we're at.
Yeah, and it's not like you can go back easily from this kind of dependence on so much power that we use. We use so much energy to produce stuff and to function. And it's not like you just can't just walk it back simply. It doesn't work that way. And here we are.
Oh, if we had only listened to Nikola Tesla over 100 years ago, we would all have free energy from the sky, from the ionosphere, which is...
and look what happened. We have Elon Musk owning Tesla.
Yeah, we went from a good Tesla to a bad Tesla.
Evil Tesla.
Yeah, the evil Tesla.
Dark Tesla.
Sure. So yeah, I mentioned just a few minutes ago about how the U.S. was kind of admonishing Israel, striking the oil infrastructure. This is from antiwar.com. A very good news aggregation site. I highly recommend it for folks, especially especially with like the war stories. Yeah, they very are. They do good news aggregation.
Long time too.
And their journalism, their own journalism too, is pretty top notch too. So the U.S. tries to distance itself from Israeli strikes on oil infrastructure in Iran. This is from Dave DeCamp. The U.S. has tried to distance itself from Israel's weekend airstrikes on oil infrastructure in Iran, which turned the skies over Tehran black and poured toxic rain mixed with oil on the city. Yeah, it's just very apocalyptic scene there. You could see it right there. Look at that. That's oil.
That's a scene out of a movie.
Yeah, this looks like the road.
That doesn't look real.
This like some what does it say? Who is this?
Cormac McCarthy, the road. Yeah.
Yeah, you see signs like this, burned out trucks. The sky is all gray. It's all just awful. U.S. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth was asked about reports of U.S. discontent over the Israeli strikes and insisted the U.S. and Israel have different objectives in the war, despite launching it together and the U.S. military's significant role in defending Israel from Iranian counterattacks. Well, I would just start by saying Israel's been a really strong partner in this effort. Where they have different objectives, they pursued them. Ultimately, we've stayed focused on ours, Hegseth said at a press conference on Tuesday morning. And apparently the whole reason for starting this thing is, this is what Marco Rubio, who is he? The Secretary of State. He said, I was calling Little Marco. I call him Aquaman because of his response to the State of the Union one year. And he's dipping over to get the water while he's talking, like, oh, Aquaman, you're so silly. But basically he had said that, he said, well, Israel was going to attack Iran, and we knew Iran was going to attack Israel and us. So we decided to jump in. So that was their reasoning for, one of their reasons for getting into this debacle. So he says, but what Iran has felt is the power of the world's two most powerful air forces. Defense air forces, not so much. In that particular case, that wasn't our strikes or that objective, or that wasn't necessarily our objective, he said. It sounds like he's walking it back. Later, yesterday, Axios reporter Barak Ravid, a former Israeli intelligence officer, reported that the U.S. had asked Israel to refrain from further strikes on Iranian energy infrastructure for several reasons, including concerns that it could lead to major Iranian attacks on oil infrastructure on Gulf Arab states and raise the price of oil. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. There it is. It's all about money, folks. Just like Venezuela was not about getting drug dealers, it's about getting the oil, which apparently now they're bringing in private oil companies there too. The report said that the U.S. also hoped to cooperate with Iran's oil industry after the war, similar to what it has done in Venezuela, as we just told you. Cooperating quotes there, but the objectives is very unlikely as the Iranian government remains intact and is vowing to fight a long war. Sources also told Ravid that the U.S. was concerned that the strikes on oil infrastructure hurt the Iranian public, though the bombing campaign has already killed more than 1,200 civilians, even more than that. Senator Lindsey Graham, one of our favorites, one of the biggest supporters of the war, also warned Israel against targeting oil infrastructure in a post on Twitter. I'm very shocked by that him warning Israel about doing that, because, you know, he's super Israel man. Our goal is to liberate the Iranian people in a fashion that does not cripple their chance to start a new and better life when this regime collapses. The oil economy of Iran will be essential to that endeavor. Also, it's essential that if we do topple Iran, we get their oil, because that's the theme.
Yeah.
Get that oil. What's up, Max? Good to see you. Oh, look at
That's
that.
very
Max.
sweet.
You're such a kiss ass, Max. I swear to God. No, you're very correct, Max.
Thank you
You're
very much.
correct.
It's been a real pleasure to do this. So I've been wanting to work with Warren for so long, and it was great that we had the opportunity to do this. So thank you.
And she's legally obliged to by the courts to do so. This is part of some heinous crime that she committed, and this is part of her community service. So you know, don't think she's a saint. Okay, all right, she's not. But yeah, this is the whole thing, right? Oil. They're talking about opening reserves here in the United States, even some in Japan too, I believe.
Yeah.
So it's and the longer Iran goes, the worse this is going to get. And people will say, well, yeah, well, I blame Iran for this. And it's like, well, they didn't start this. They never start any. That's the thing. It's like Iran never starts any of these wars. They always, like Iraq, they picked a fight with them. They started the war with them back in 79. And you know, of course, all the sanctions and with the nuclear stuff being, you know, like, well, you can't have nuclear facilities at all in Iran because you're terrorists. And even though they, you know, haven't attacked anybody. So it's very odd. You know, how this is all playing out.
And with Israel flat out saying that, you know, they're going to take out whoever succeeds, you know, becomes the new great leader. And they're openly threatening this. It is this. I mean, talk about clown school. I was just telling the Warren, we're not doing a clown school this week, we got other things to do. But the thing with the clownfish segment is now it's almost becoming redundant because everything we report on involves clowns. It's the non-clowns that are the exception here.
We could have our own show called Clownfish School at this point, because there's so many of these stories like this.
Fish tank. We just need a fish tank.
It's very, very
aquarium.
Irresponsible. It shows the ignorance of the United States and our military leaders too. Hegseth, what was he, like a Fox News host before he was
that man is just such an embarrassment. I mean, it's just these people, and I know it's intentional. It's designed to make people grimace. and their base can laugh at those of us who are wincing. There it is.
This is probably another golden opportunity for the Democrats, but what they'll end up doing is pulling pulling defeat from the jaws of victory on this one, as they usually do, because a lot of times they're complicit with these oil people too. A lot of them they donate to both sides of the aisle, and yeah, this is something we'll have to definitely, this story will progress for sure. This is an interesting story that you brought about a Farsi numbers station.
I just wanted to share this. You'll find these all over YouTube now. They're all over the place. And I wanted to share this with our audience as a curiosity, something that some people don't really know about, but it's kind of interesting. It's an interesting bit of tradecraft. So if you have a shortwave radio, and not everybody does, but if you have one, sometimes you'll tune in, you'll dial in, and you'll start getting a signal, and all you'll hear are numbers, or sometimes letters, or something like that. And it doesn't appear to have any rhyme or reason. There's no station ID. You'll hear oftentimes a computer generated, could be a female voice or a male voice, may have an accent, may not, or a different accent from the one you're used to. And what these are is they're called numbers stations. And the general idea is that these are a way for organizations and nations, as well, governments and various groups and whatnot, to communicate to their field agents in a way that is difficult to track or to control. So the idea is that if you have spies, and if you're in country A and you have spies in another country, because of the way shortwave radio works, which allows for very long range transmission, they get on a shortwave, they establish a shortwave station, and shortwave stations are not licensed in the way that they are to governments, the way that AM or FM are. Say, for example, in the United States, if you want to have an AM or an FM station, you have to go to the FCC and get licensed for that. That's not the way shortwave works. It's more of a gentleman's agreement that various stations will keep to their own sections of the bandwidth. But what they'll do is these governments or these agencies or organizations will have their own little little station on a shortwave band, and they will have somebody announce, or have the computerized voice announce these numbers and letters, which are actually a code. And the code, the spies know to turn to that particular band. They turn to that band, they get the code, and then they know they've got their instructions and what they're supposed to do. Now, of course, there seems to me that this could also is ripe for abuse. You could have people who are claiming to be a number station. It would be very easy to get wrong information to an agent. It would depend on their own operation security, how easily they can detect what is a real message and what is not. What is happening is we're getting all these Farsi numbers stations that are popping up all over the place, and there are DXers. DXers are either ham radio operators or people who just like to tune into long range radio shows for their own amusement. It's its own culture, but they're doing it, and they're finding it, and they're putting it all up on YouTube. And that's why I'm sharing it, because I just think it's a curiosity. It's interesting. It's interesting to see the way things are going right now with these Farsi stations. Some people are speculating, it's all being run by Mossad. And some of them are saying, that this is all a false flag and that sort of thing. There's a lot of debate about it. And there's the question, can anybody crack the code that are being given? But if you want to amuse yourself a little bit, you might want to check it out. Again, go to YouTube, look up Farsi numbers stations, and you'll find a lot of that up there, a lot of transmissions that somebody's already gone to the trouble of getting and recording for you. Check it out. It's kind of cool.
So basically what happened with in this particular case, after the start of the conflict between Iran and the U.S., transmissions of numerical sequences began on the frequency 7910 kilohertz USB. Radio enthusiasts initially thought it could be a new Iranian number station. They've had those number stations coming out of Russia too. during the Cold War too, at least maybe before then. So the first logs of the 7910 kilohertz transmission emerged on February 28th, the day the war started. Many radio listeners have posted various videos of this mysterious news station on YouTube. Like you said, it seems like the broadcasts will always happen at the same frequency every day. So we have a sample of this to let you, oops, not that one. Hello. Stupid fingers. Okay. So this is an example of this from March 3rd. Hopefully this doesn't blow your eardrums out. And a lot of these, and it just this one goes on for about 5 minutes. We won't kill your eardrums with that for too long. But yeah, it's like so they have these repeaters going on, and is it codes that they're sending to other people? Like you said, is it Mossad? Is it somebody else doing this kind of thing? We're not very sure of that, but it's interesting that this phenomenon is happening.
Yeah, and as I said, if all this war stuff is really getting you down, but you kind of want to stay on the topic, check out the reports on YouTube with these number stations, the bloggers, the DXers. These are geeks. They are geeks among geeks, and they're getting some cool stuff. And it's fun to speculate and just check it out and see what people can do. Radio is a remarkable technology.
They on the TV show Lost, they actually had something similar to that, like this repeating the numbers, I think, or something like that, the numbers that were prevalent throughout the show. There was some mystery tower and transmission stuff like, yeah, it's really cool. Very cloak and daggery kind of stuff. Meanwhile, in Germany, Gen Z said nine revolting against militarism. So across Germany, tens of thousands of high school students went on strike last week to protest the likely reintroduction of military service, something they're kind of batting around over here in the United States with possibly bringing back the draft. Germany's political leaders want a new generation of soldiers, but young people said nine. We don't want it. We don't want it. German ministers today routinely talk about making society ready for war and reintroducing military service, as Thursday's school strike showed the country's youth are against the idea. So it's a sunny Thursday morning in Berlin's central business district. In the shadow of shopping malls and corporate headquarters, a large group of high schoolers had gathered from a makeshift stage. Two of their comrades start leading chants aimed at the German chancellor. Friedrich Merz, suck my balls. Send. I'm like, yes. I'd love to. I'm going to learn that in German just so I could yell it too. Send Friedrich Merz to the front line and conscription. Never again. Suck my balls. That's awesome. Gen Z. You know, Gen Z loves some Gen X, right? So if we combine forces, it's game over. We're going to change the world.
What are you saying, Uncle Warren?
What? Gen Z loves us. But
I know you said that right after the whole "suck my balls" thing.
Well, they're not going to suck our balls, but they are going to work with us. They apparently fuck with us. That's what the kids say. They say, Gen X, we fuck with you, and I'm like, okay. I mean, don't be mean, but you can fuck with this in a good way, I guess. I don't really know what that means. I'm not down with urban slang, but. The students are joined by a growing number of supporters, including representatives of the National Teachers Union. I'm pretty sure they're not Gen Z, left-wing parties, and pacifist groups. Signs of solidarity with the Palestinian liberation struggle abound to the dismay of the Berlin police, who blast announcements warning protesters that they risk arrest when covering their faces with keffiyehs. The crowd heads toward the historically left-wing neighborhood of Kreuzberg, swelling to about 10,000 protesters. It's the second major school strike against Germany's anticipated reintroduction of conscription, aka the draft, which has been suspended since 2011. In a coordinated nationwide action, over 50,000 high schoolers and supporters in some 130 towns and cities took to the streets. Their motto, "The rich want war, the youth a future. That's beautiful. I love that. That just nails it right there. The rich want war.
Yeah.
The youth want a future. And these protests come days after the U.S.-Israeli attacks on Iran, which many there worry may develop into yet another war with global reverberations. Germany's new government has not been shy in its own military ambitions, setting in motion the country's largest militarization drive since World War II. Ooh, yeah, that's not a good comparison. Merz has vowed to turn the armed forces into the strongest conventional army in Europe. To finance this ambition, Merz's governing coalition has amended the Federal Republic's strict constitutional spending rules, the debt brake, to allow for a massive increase in military spending. Berlin is committed to hiking military spending to 3.5% of its GDP by 2029, an estimated 152, is that euros or is that francs? Billion a year, exceeding the projected defense budgets of France and the United Kingdom combined. And that's some scary stuff right there. With when okay, you're gonna work. Sorry, StreamYard being a little bit petulant. This kind of started when Trump got back in office and said that these European countries are going to need to boost their military budgets themselves. Oh, hello. It's just me now. I kicked her out. She'll be back in just a second. So yeah, what Germany did here is kind of scary. It's like arming up, getting ready to rock and roll along with the rest of Europe, because for one reason, because Trump said that he wanted their budgets to go up on their own, that he wasn't going to foot the bill for them anymore. To an extent, which sounds good, but yeah. But these kids in Germany are not having any of that. And I'm although, I'm an old guy, I'm a Gen Xer myself, and I don't really like kids. I feel for the children though, because I want them to have a future too. I don't have kids of my own, but it's good to know that that this generation that's coming up is not having any of this. So hang on just a second. Let me get back here. I'm sure, I don't know if Lainey had a connection failure or something down there. Hopefully she'll be back soon. She's the star of this show. I'm just a monkey that pushes the buttons. So, all right. So, and I think that's all for that one. We, up next, we're going to the recurring tide stories that we've been covering and are updating in this segment here. Let me get to the next one there. What?
I am sorry. The internet went down.
I thought maybe it was something I said.
You never know these days.
So I don't know why this is not showing. When it rains, it pours, I guess. For some reason, I'm not able. Let me try one more thing. Yeah, is everything okay on your end now?
Everything I think is okay. I mean, we've been having some weird weather, so I don't know if that's affecting things or what, but or there are gremlins or there are multiple things. I'm not quite sure. That's weird.
Yeah, and now I hate these CAPTCHA things. So I'm trying to reload this thing that I had, and for some reason it's not loading. I think they don't like our show that we're doing, Lainey.
Well, that's why we're on so many different sources, and that's why people need to subscribe and follow us on all of our sources, so that if one group of very bad people decide to take us down, they can check and move over to the other source. Hint, hint.
They won't take us down. We're too badass. Hopefully this will work. I don't know why this is some weird shit. Okay. All right, we're back on track, I think. This one will probably crap out too, but we'll see.
Okay.
We just roll with it, baby. So we're here, we're doing the recurring tide now, and we're talking about no AI plan, no loan, small business leaders force Main Street to face the future. Oops, I don't want to do that. Everything is
So
going.
without getting, like, I guess, too deep into this, I found this interesting. Is basically, we were talking the other week about how immigrants are going to be having a harder time getting SBA loans if they can get them at all. But now we're seeing another group of people, which is anybody who's got a small business that they're trying to get set up. Bankers are now going to be asking, well, how do you plan to deal with AI? And I mean, I guess the position here, and I can understand it, is the bankers are concerned that if you have a business, how do you plan to keep your business going if AI can take over your functions?
So, artificial intelligence has been treated mostly as a story of disruption for workers and in Silicon Valley, but bankers are starting to demand small business applicants plan for AI. Yeah, so, and probably not just banks either. Ray Drew was reviewing a loan application from an online trip planning business last month and started to worry its service looked uncomfortably close to something an AI chatbot could do in minutes or seconds. He passed on the loan as the founder of SBA Collective, a network of lenders and advisors focused on small business administration-backed lending. Drew has been having discussions about the impact of artificial intelligence on small business since 2023, but now the talk is more frequent and much more direct. He's bringing it up with borrowers and would-be borrowers of $5 billion in assets. Winston-Salem, North Carolina-based Trulient Federal Credit, where he's managing director of SBA lending. We have to at least ask the question, how is AI disrupting your business? There's really not a single industry where you don't need to ask that question, he said. Investors, economists, and ordinary Americans are understandably obsessed with the pros and cons and the winners and losers from the advance of artificial intelligence. Much of the financial focus has been on the impact on workers, as big companies attribute layoffs, accurately or not, to AI, and on Silicon Valley as investors try to figure out which software companies are themselves about to get disrupted. The $9 billion iShares Expanded Tech Software Sector ETF has fallen some 20% this year as markets wrestle with the changes underway and on the way. What has received far less attention is how the same uncertainty is playing out on Main Street among accountants, consultants, law firms, and other businesses, and the small banks that make decisions about financing them every day. The stakes are high. Firms with fewer than 500 employees account for about 44% of U.S. GDP and employ 46% of the private workforce, or more than 62 million Americans. A good chunk of these small businesses operate in fields where generative AI appears most useful. A 2025 Microsoft research paper analyzing hundreds of thousands of AI interactions found the technology is, unsurprisingly, most applicable to tasks involving writing, research, and analysis. 1/3 of small employer firms are in professional services and real estate, a single category, or business support services, according to the Federal Reserve Small Business Credit Survey. Sure, most of the impact from AI may not be seen for years, but that's little comfort to small business lenders who typically make loans with a 10-year life. While the Small Business Administration backstops about 75% of a 7A loan, banks still absorb losses if a borrower fails and must show the agency they followed proper underwriting standards to collect the guarantee. Over the past decade, roughly 8% of SBA loans have defaulted on a cumulative basis, according to Lumos Data, a firm that analyzes SBA lending performance. Small business lending is as much art as it is a science. The science is in the spreadsheets. Bankers analyze cash flow, review collateral, and check a potential borrower's credit history. The art is the harder part, judging whether the business itself makes sense and has long-term survival potential. Given the high new business failure rate, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, just under 35% of the businesses started in 2013 were still around a decade later. Wow, that's crazy. Normally, the bankers can draw on their own experience. For example, did similar businesses survive the last recession? But every so often, something comes along that doesn't resemble anything they've seen before, making forecasting harder than usual. A global pandemic, tariffs that appear, disappear, and appear again. AI is today's big known unknown. So far, lenders are not pulling back from entire industries or predicting a wave of business failures, but the way they think about risk is starting to change. If a company's product is knowledge, advice, or analysis, as opposed to, say, installing and servicing heating and cooling units, lenders have to at least consider what happens when software starts doing more of that work. Some of the borrowers' banks thought they understood best and are now harder for them to figure out. The result, bankers are increasingly demanding whether and how a small business loan applicant is thinking about and harnessing the disruptive impact of AI. And this goes on more here about it. You can read this full article on our Substack. We'll have it on there for you. And it makes sense, right? Like,
Yeah.
what is AI doing in these businesses, and how are these bankers dealing with it?
I think also it's, if you want to start a business, if you want to have a business, one of the things you're going to have to do is you're going to have to be prepared to understand AI. A lot of people, I think, start businesses, they don't know what AI can do. They don't understand what it can do and what it can't do. How can easily accessible LLMs like, Claude and Perplexity and whatever, how they operate, how they can operate. And I do think, and when you understand that, you're going to be far better prepared when talking with lenders and investors about what you can do, how can you leverage this, and to make your business successful and profitable while fighting off the threat of AI just simply taking over. For example, a travel planning business, that can be a real issue for people right now. But if somebody who is AI savvy understands that, they can come in and say, we have this travel business, but we are specializing in a very narrow niche. And we have human beings on the ground. We can use AI to get ideas about locations and hotels and that sort of thing. But we have our people, we're going to have our people calling the hotel and finding out about amenities. Let's say, for example, there are travel companies that will cater to people with disabilities. And that person, you may have to call individual hotels or individual attractions and find out exactly what they can and cannot offer. That's something that AI at this point probably is not going to do all that effectively. They can't make site visits, that sort of thing. So I think that there are a lot of businesses that are going to be open to disruption, certainly. But if they are able to hyper-personalize what they do and be very granular about their offerings, they may have a better chance of success. But people need to be aware of this.
Yeah, and with the AI too, depending on your business or what you're doing, AI may also lower your overhead costs too, which when you're negotiating with banks for monies for your business, that could be a positive for you, because it's you may not need as many people to do the work that the AI is going to do. So that means your payroll is going to be very much decreased, and that's part of the overhead of a business is your payroll, and that's just one aspect too. AI is not going to go away. I think it's like it's blood in the water at this point, and there's no really separating it at this point. Now, the only thing we can do is to make sure that it's regulated in a way that it's not harmful. And if it's going to take all these jobs away from people, we as a country, and probably as a world too, need to figure out ways that we can still keep people employed in other areas that AI, where they can't anymore, where AI is taken over too. And a lot of these businesses are looking at this. Big businesses in particular, the giant corporations, and now these small companies too, are looking into this too. This is one of those roads that we just started walking on, and where it goes, nobody knows. So maybe we'll have robot overlords probably in the next 10 years. Maybe that might be a good thing, huh? Our human overlords aren't doing so well, but maybe the robot ones will take care. Next up, we got, speaking of labor, we have food beverage companies lagging on addressing forced labor risks, according to a report. Major food and beverage companies are lagging behind on efforts to prevent and address forced labor risks aggravated by climate change across their supply chains, according to a recent assessment backed by international nonprofit Business and Human Rights Center. The benchmark evaluated 45 of the largest food and beverage companies across the globe and gave them an average score of just 15 out of 100 for efforts to prevent and address forced labor. Wow, a decline since the last assessment 3 years ago. Nearly half of the companies scored below 10 out of 100, and only two Australian supermarkets, Coles and Woolworths, and there she goes again, scored above 50. Unilever, Tesco, and the Hershey Company trailed behind in rankings with scores in the 40s. All other companies assessed for the benchmark include Smuckers, Mondelez International, and Nestle scored less than 40. So nearly 1.3 billion people work in agri-food systems globally, and the food and beverage industry remains the largest worldwide, according to the UN. In 2024, the International Labor Organization calculated illicit global profits from forced labor of $236 billion, up $64 billion over a decade, with the world's agricultural works generating about $5 billion. The latest benchmark was published earlier this month by Know the Chain, a project of the Business and Human Rights Center, which provides resources to help companies and investors identify and address forced labor risks within their global supply chains. Coles, Hershey, Tesco, Unilever, Woolworths, and Smuckers scored the highest on this year's benchmark, similar to their rankings on the 2023 assessment. 7 companies, including Tesco, Smuckers, Nestle, and Walmart, saw score drops of 10% or more since 2023. Supermarkets performed the best with an average score of 24 out of 100, while packaged foods and meats performed the worst with an average score of 12 out of 100. Companies headquartered in jurisdictions with import bans and mandatory due diligence and disclosure requirements are on forced labor scored higher than those that were not. The 2 Australian companies scored 56 on average, while Europe-based companies scored 19 on average, and U.S. companies scored 15 on average. That's not surprising there. Meanwhile, companies based in Asia scored 7 on average, and companies in Latin America scored 4 on average. Food and beverage companies scored the highest on the theme of commitment and governance, and 91% of companies said they have a supplier code of conduct prohibiting forced labor. However, only 40% of companies disclose board oversight of forced labor policies, and they scored extremely poorly on the practices that matter most on the ground. Companies scored an average of 3 out of 100 in responsible purchasing practices, 5 out of 100 in access to remediation, 6 out of 100 in freedom of association, and 7 out of 100 in monitoring conditions for supply chain workers. Just 1 in 5 companies disclosed engaging directly with rights holders or their legitimate representatives in forced labor efforts. Additionally, only 7% of companies disclose training in forced labor policies for lower tier suppliers. Do you want to maybe give a little more in depth on what this forced labor is? Is this like slavery?
It's trafficking. It's the slavery. It's all this crap that's happening, and you've got people who are refugees, migrant populations, people who are in many cases it may seem totally up and up. They have a contact, comes into a country, says, we've got jobs from you overseas. They come over, they take their passports from them, set them to work under appalling conditions and make it impossible for them to leave. This is Yeah, and it's awful. And the thing of it is, these companies, they can have whatever policies they want, but if there's no investigation and no legit process for the investigation going on, and there's no accountability, no, what happens? Okay, oh, you've been working with a supplier that's using forced labor. Okay, whose heads are going to roll? And if they don't have that built into their system, if they don't have the VP of that division, sorry, you're out. Or they're not putting on their payroll, investigators who are routinely doing surprise inspections. What good's your policy?
Yeah. Or if you have people, your investigators coming in who may be on the take as well too, as I've seen a lot going on in New York City in particular too. So it's definitely not a perfect system at all. And, anywhere. And, it's one of those things that is a reality that a lot of people didn't know. I didn't know how severe it was. I figured it was bad. I didn't figure
it's really bad. And it even gets down to things like organics. I mean, I remember I used to do a lot of work in the tea industry, and there were some tea companies here in the US where they refused a lot of the certifications. They didn't trust the certifications that they were getting because they were so badly enforced, and their owners, if they had a conscience about this, they would just go and visit. And they said, yeah, they would go to tea plantations that were technically organic, but they were right next to a highway where you had trucks spewing gas or emissions all over the crops. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing that they could avoid. And the same thing goes with the way human beings are being treated. They can have whatever policy in the world they want to have, but unless there's a genuine process, unless there's investigators, unless there are separate channels for reporting, and where there's real world consequences for people who don't do their jobs, forget it. It's worthless.
Meanwhile, the USDA approved SNAP waivers for 4 more states. 4 more states received approval for waivers allowing them to amend the statutory definition of eligible food under SNAP and exclude more products from the program, the USDA announced Wednesday. The additional states, Kansas, Nevada, Ohio, and Wyoming, bring the total number of states with SNAP waivers to 22. The USDA also announced Wednesday that the stocking standards final rule, which changes food stocking requirements for retailers that want to accept SNAP benefits, is forthcoming. The Trump administration is pushing forward with efforts it says will help consumers, especially those participating in SNAP, make healthier choices. While SNAP participants nationwide aren't allowed to use their benefits to buy alcohol, God, they probably should. Tobacco, hot and prepared foods, the hot and prepared foods thing, that really pisses me off. It's food. I mean, who cares if it's prepared? And personal care products, the waivers allow states to exclude additional items like candy, soda, and energy drinks from SNAP eligibility. In May, Nebraska became the first state to receive a waiver, which went into effect in January. And since then, nearly 24 states have also received approval. Items barred from SNAP eligibility under the waivers vary from state to state. All 4 newly approved state waivers take aim at sugary drinks. Kansas and Nevada are also restricting candy. For the updated stocking standards, the USDA says that the forthcoming rule will ensure retailers meet a higher minimum standard of staple food stocking requirements. If only they could do something to control the prices of food, because you have a limited amount of money with SNAP, no matter how many children you have in your household, and restricting soda and energy drinks, that just seems like so this seems like this is a Food and Drug Administration situation where they determine that soda and energy drinks and the like or candy are not healthy, which we all know they're not healthy, but to do a totally healthy program, I mean, those healthy foods are very expensive.
Well, they can be, but here's the thing. First of all, many in cases they're not just prohibiting sugary drinks; they are prohibiting all sodas, including zero sugar sodas. And there is, again, brought this up before, there is some very strong evidence that sugar-free sodas can be very helpful in weight management. They curb sugar cravings. They're effectively 0 calories. I mean, if you have a lot of them, you can start adding some calories, but not much. And they're very effective at that. So helping people maintain a healthy body weight, they're taking the one very inexpensive tool that people have, and they're taking that away from them. Candy. I have a friend who has 2 children with type 1 diabetes. They use Smarties to help manage their insulin levels. Okay, yeah, Smarties is not a nutritious food, but it's what her kids need to manage diabetes, and they do very well with it. Now, they don't need food stamps, but again, there's how a food could be used that's not healthy could be used to maintain health. You're also talking about a bunch of people who can only keep down certain types of food. They have certain food biases. You have children and adults who have maybe mental illness, who have developmental disorders. They're on the spectrum. There are only a few types of foods that they will eat. And they may not be considered nutritious, but it's a way to get calories into them. And remember, even these supposed junk foods oftentimes are fortified. They have enriched flour. They're made with things that give them B vitamins and the things that they need to go on with. I continue to maintain that these restrictions are a show to keep people who like punching down happy. People who are discontented and resentful, you keep them happy by saying we're going to deprive the poors of a snack, and it is a form of humiliation for the people. Now, look, I am all about my lean ground turkey and my oatmeal, and if you've ever seen the meals that I make for myself, they're a lot of them are very whole food based because I'm into that sort of thing. But there are people out there who have different nutritional needs. There are people out there who are living in tents, who do not have homes. They cannot cook or store food properly. They need to buy packaged and processed foods with a long shelf life so they don't give themselves norovirus.
Yeah.
This is an act of humiliation, and there it is.
Yeah, and I think it's hypocritical too. When the coronavirus was going around and people didn't want to get the jabs, they said, my body, my choice. When it comes to this stuff, food is food. Whether it's good food or bad food, it's still food, and that should be the person's choice as well. Not everybody's buying sugary drinks and candy and stuff like that. Some people are out there buying vegetables and fruits and all sorts of healthy kind of stuff. And, but sometimes, like you said, there are some healthier alternatives in candies and sodas and stuff like that.
Or they're used for other purposes. They're used for health-related purposes, even if they're not nutrition dense. And again, also, this is just creating more rigmarole for stores and perhaps food manufacturers. And now, which could, at a time of increased grocery costs, do we really need whole new systems being put into place to figure out what food qualifies and what food doesn't? We've already got restrictions on things like the WIC program, Women, Infants, and Children, where they have defined what they consider to be healthy foods. Fair enough, because the purpose of that program is different. This is a matter of getting food into people's tummies. And also keep in mind, with the high price of groceries, now people are, they're running out and getting the stuff that's on clearance. It's whatever food they can get. And if there are foods on clearance that, again, don't qualify, you're standing between people and getting food, and you're making this a much more complicated system than it needs to be. And in the end, that's going to impact the people who need this program and who need to eat, which is, by the way, all of us.
Yeah, we need to start wrapping up here. We're going to do our final story here. Finally today, if you talk about a finish line, oh boy, Finnish couple takes first in the annual UK wife carrying race. There they are right there. This is how you do it. This gentleman knows what's up. The couple who traveled from Finland to England took first place in one of Britain's most unusual annual events, the UK wife carrying race in Dorking. Surrey, Dorking, that's funny. The event, held annually since 2008, features dozens of pairs of traversing obstacles, including hills, hay bales, water hazards, mothers-in-law, spectators bearing squirt guns. I added the mothers-in-law. And buckets of water in a 415-yard race to the finish line. Timu Tuovinen and Yada Leononen, both 28, a team known as the Flying Finns, came in first, earning the grand prize of a barrel of locally produced ale and a free divorce from their local lawyers if they want those. Britain's Edward Nash and Catherine Knight came in second, making them the first UK residents to cross the finish line and qualifying them to compete in the wife-carrying World Championships in Finland in July. The rules do not require participants to be married or even opposite gender, so long as the wife being carried weighs at least 110 pounds. Those weighing in at less than the minimum are required to wear weighted backpacks. So I'm going to bring a sack of potatoes and carry it and say, this is my lovely bride right here. I call her Tater. And we're going to win this race. So that's I saw that and I was like, this is some bizarre shit. But we needed a little humor to end this.
A little bit of humor.
Yeah, this miserably sad show for today. Not that the quality of the programming was bad. It's just the actual stuff that we were talking about was pretty sad. So
it is pretty depressing. And we do appreciate you all supporting us and taking the time to be informed. You're taking time out of your day to support us, but also you're taking time to be informed. And we appreciate that.
Yeah, and we want to remind you we're on YouTube, Rumble, Instagram, Facebook, and of course Substack. So if you're watching from any of those platforms, we appreciate you. Me personally, coming up tonight, I think about 7 p.m. Eastern time, I'm going to be on Jamar Jabari's show, cool. Talking about world events and whatnot. It's on YouTube. I put a post on the community post on YouTube on my channel. So check us out. I love Jamar. He's from Jabari Media. Very knowledgeable kid. I say kid because I'm an old man. And I hope that makes him feel better knowing that he's a kid. Don't get old. Because then you'll be calling people kids. Anything you got going on?
I'm heading off to Chicago, so I'll be seeing you and Chuck and the rest of the gang, Chicago Corner gang. Will be hanging out this weekend, so I'm looking forward to that and seeing, just being back in my town. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, and speaking of Chicago Corner, be sure to check them out. It's a Chicago Corner Network. Yeah. Now, and they've been talking to various candidates for office in Illinois and for on the national stage too. So check them out and check out their interviews. Very fascinating, good stuff. Yeah. So
some really great stuff.
All right. Well, that's it for us. Appreciate all y'all. We will see you again next week. I'll be back, like I said, tonight on Jamar's show, but I'll also be back for Morning Extra on Friday. And of course, the Secret Show Friday night, for a full day of depressing news and weird, dumb shit. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Peace.